the chances that I missed. Some I held and slipped away. One street over where my memories exist. I wondered what would change. I really couldn't say. In this life there's nothing certain, except the curtain that rises to the stage. Silly games of second guessing. I just forget the lessons that I couldn't learn. Because one street over there's a life I could have known that would have kept me from the one I had today.
This is 1100 WSG. I'm LaVern, and this is one street over, getting it all turned on and back together from the weekend. People just don't put the things back like they're supposed to, Bill. I'm just saying. No, we got it all set up. I tell you, if you want to get the line feed from the radio station, we're going to share the WSGI page. You can get room noise on mine. I've got some new equipment that we're going to try out. We're going to see if we can fix that thing and get it back to what we normally used to. But We've got the WSGI page. It is up and running just fine, and so I'm going to share that link on my page. So you should be able to find that just about right now. If you're watching on my social media page, the WSGI page should be popping up, and they even have the closed caption on. So in case you can't,
really?
If we talk too fast,
I don't know if he can
you'll be able to.
me.
Yeah. Well, I've gotten to where I have to.
I do too. I use it all the time.
I do too.
Got hearing aids.
Well, and I love watching. I don't know. I watch a lot of. I found some stuff that's PBS produced, and there's a lot of British accents and things like that. And it's like from the 1950s, I think, or no, it's actually in the 30s.
I watch a lot of PBS. And
yeah,
I know
love all that
stuff,
all the historic fiction stuff, and so we've discovered something. I can't even think of the name of it, the Durrells or something like that, and where this family moves to this Greek island, and it's in the 30s. It's fascinating. But anyway, I can't understand them. And so I put the captions on so I can at least know what they're saying. So
yeah, I do that too constantly. I don't want to. And one of them, I watch old stuff like the Highway Patrol comes on during the night. I record it, watch it every morning when I get up, and the main character talks so fast, I can't get it. So thank goodness I have closed captioning, but he moves so fast that it's hard to follow. But
Highway Patrol.
Like that, and the Channel 8 stuff, I watch. I love those European comedies.
Yeah,
and things. I love that. But
I do too.
I have closed captioning. Well, I have it on everything now. I just don't turn it off anymore.
Well, and so Bill is here today. He was going to bring somebody else with him because we're talking weather. Now, I do have I've just a couple of things. My husband's 60th birthday is tomorrow. So if I have seemed a little discombobulated over the last couple of weeks, we pulled off an epic surprise for him. Epic. And I mean, we did it at my friend's house. So he had no idea. His birthday's not until tomorrow. His sister, niece, and nephew came in from Michigan, flew in. I told so many lies. I have never been a part of a surprise that, I mean, I've been to many surprise parties, but it's always like, well, they had an idea if something was going on. My husband had no clue. We pulled it off. Here's the sad thing, though. With all the cell phones in the room, nobody got it on video.
Well, I was going to ask you that was my next question, if you got it.
I've got some pictures, and that's okay. We've got it right here. But we got there just a few minutes early, so we kind of caught him a little off guard. And it's fine because now we do have video of him seeing his sister. And he was like, oh,
Yeah.
so that was really cool. That was really sweet because, I mean, she's practically they're in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, just South Lake Superior.
far as you can get.
It's a long way. And so he doesn't get to see her very often. And they're super close. And that's his only sister. So it was, and his sweet, our niece that was here was the one that was the flower girl in our wedding, and then her son. So it was special. It was very special.
Love those kind of things.
Yeah, and if any of you had any part in that, you know who you are. Thank you. Especially my friend Ginger and her cousin Patricia. They let us take over their house because my house is not big enough for the gathering inside when it's cooler. I can go to the barn and all that, but I couldn't have surprised him. And so she just opened her home to us. But his birthday, he will be 60 tomorrow, y'all. And it's like,
talking about surprising people. I went to something real special Saturday. It was at the Church of Christ on Main Street.
I wanted to be there so bad, and I had family here all weekend.
And there was people. I don't know how many people were there. Oh, a lot of people. Parking lot was full.
Good. That's for the Hagen.
That was so good for a good person, John Hagen. And
I wish I could.
Everybody had good things to say, and he did a lot of stuff most people don't know about, and that was so neat. And I wish there were more people like him around. And he's sort of retired now, but no one understood what he did, how he did, and what he did for the community and people.
Bet. And
fantastic person.
and it was, we had Joe Rushing in on Friday to talk about
Joe got the thing up.
Yeah. And so I had tried so hard to get there, but we had people at our house all weekend because of the family.
Yeah,
they flew out yesterday. So they were here from Thursday to yesterday. So it's been just chaos for us, and good chaos, but it's been crazy. And we did get to the parade Saturday night. Did you make it to the parade?
I did not.
It was wonderful.
I guess it's going to be on Facebook. I had just gotten home, and I said,
I'm assuming,
my wife said, don't you go out there. You got a sinus congestion and all that stuff. You don't go out there in the damp weather. So I didn't.
Well,
I knew there was going to be pretty good parade.
Yeah, it was. And I do have you had told me we weren't going to have rain.
We didn't. I didn't have any accumulation. It was wet, but it didn't rain.
It wasn't technically rain. Well, my friends that play music, the band because I sat in with the band at Epiphany Baptist on Tuesday night for Celebrate Recovery. But they have a band that has recorded called We Imperfect Few. And so they have an album already, working on another one. And so they were planning on playing in the parade. Well, I guess they decided not to because of the instruments and stuff. Now, I will have to say, Mr. Perry, they got out there. Perry's music. Yeah, they played.
Interesting.
So yeah, Mr. Perry played, and so it was the bands, the kiddos, the bands that played. I don't know which one of the bands it was. We'll talk about them a little bit more in a little bit, but one of our new sponsors, and it was fun. And now we did get in line. Terry, I did get in line to go to the Christmas lights, and my family, hungry kids, they're like, we got to go get something to eat, Mama. And and so we sat there for about 10, 15 minutes in line, and I got outvoted. I was like, it won't take much longer. But what it is we got in line right after the parade. And so it was, and I'm sure within 30 minutes, what we should have done is gone straight to dinner and then gone. Yeah. And then as it was, by the time we got in with dinner, it was closed. So we're going to go Friday, I think, which is my birthday. So there you go. Now that's my update. Bill's always wondering, what are we going to talk about for an hour? Well, it takes us,
for an hour.
10, 15 minutes just to say hello. But, it's very unusual for you to reach out to me and say, hey, I need to come on and talk about something. Usually I'm calling you saying, hey, Bill, I need a guest. But you reached out to me last week. Right. What is going on in your world?
I'm a member of a ham radio club in Springfield, amateur radio. And once a year, we try to put on some kind of special thing about weather. Because we use weather spotters. We're trained weather spotters. We work closely with the weather service in Nashville, and all of us do. And when storms come up, we're there. We're watching. We've got radios going. We talk to each other back and forth, reporting what's going on. And across the country, it's, especially hurricanes and tornadoes, very valuable information that we can pass along. And of course, a lot of us are versed in weather, and we watch radar and stuff like that. So we're a little bit more than the average person as far as knowledge about weather, generally. And so I thought I call the Scott Unger, who is at the Nashville Weather Service. He's the lead forecaster at Nashville Weather Service. And I asked him, I said, can you come out and speak to us? And, oh, yeah. So he's coming, and he said, what do you want me to talk about? I said, satellites, radar, and upper air soundings, which we like to follow, the balloons and stuff like that. The balloons put out a radio signal. We try to spot them on a map. We have a map on the internet that you can see where the balloons are and where they come down. And we try to find them, things like that. I don't do that anymore, but a lot of them do. Most balloons don't come this direction out of Nashville when they send them up over the Weather Service. They send them up twice a day over there, and they get upper air soundings, humidity and, winds, everything. And it helps them give a prediction of what's going on, upper currents of air. It goes the balloon will go up to about 100,000 feet.
How long do they, because, my son would launch weather balloons, but they did it to get video and things like that and images. He did some weather balloons and stuff during the eclipse that were mind-blowing images.
Wasn't weather balloons then, it's just a balloon, wasn't it?
Was it just a balloon? Yeah, I guess it was just a balloon, but it's the same premise. But how long do they stay afloat, usually?
Oh, it just depends on the weather.
Okay.
Not long.
That's what
hour
I thought.
or two, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe not that long.
Because when they hit the atmosphere, they pop.
Yeah.
They go
up. They're not very big, maybe as big as this room.
Yeah.
And then they get huge because they expand and they pop. Little over 100,000 feet usually.
Okay.
And they do that twice a day. They have a little shed over there at the Weather Service. By the way, if anyone would like to go to the Weather Service, you can call them ahead of time. They'll be glad to tour you around the facility and show off. They have lots of weather monitors in there. If you go over the internet.
Where is it?
It's over in Wilson County.
Okay.
Right at the edge of Wilson and Davidson County. You just have to look it up on the map. But they're more than happy. They have people there 24/7, doing weather forecast. And they're tied into the National Weather Service over in Oklahoma and Hurricane Centers down in Florida. They're all tied together. And they have something very unique, and they just come out with it this year. I believe it was this year. Maybe they did last year, called Weather 101. And it's on the internet, and just look it up. Go weather.gov 101, it'll show up. And they have live classes on there, and it'll show you a list of classes they have. It may be 15 or 20, and they're anywhere from 10 o'clock in the morning to 1 o'clock in the afternoon to 7 o'clock at night, just depending on when you can see them. They don't have them on YouTube yet, which I told them the other day, you really need to put these on YouTube so anybody can watch anytime they want to. But it's live, and they have questions and answers. So you pay attention, they're going to ask you a question, and everybody's on there answers the question, and then they don't call you out. They say, okay, 82% got this answer, and 13% got this answer, and so on like that. But it's very interesting, and there'll be different topics, like be about clouds, it'll be about wind, it'll be about radar. My question the other day I had, and I put this to my club newsletter thing I sent out the other day. Why doesn't wind, when it blows, why doesn't it just blow straight off out into space? Why does it stay with the curvature of the earth? Have you ever thought of that?
No.
Well,
God's design, it's pretty cool.
They have an answer for that.
Okay.
Plus a lot of other things. And it gets, some of the classes get complicated. And you go, and most everybody gets lost sometimes because these people are very sharp people. They're very educated, very sharp scientist type people. And it's interesting to listen to because some of it and they have pictures, slides, and that's what we're going to do Thursday night. Scott Unger's coming, bringing slides. He's going to explain and talk about weather. And he has to keep it very basic, because we don't know that stuff. And he explains a lot of things that makes a lot of sense. And their thoughts are, if we can educate people more, they can understand what's going on. Weather people get a bad name a lot of times because it doesn't come out as they predict. So they explain how they do it, and it's very scientific. It's very mathematical. They use computers. They use models, weather models, all kinds of things, and you can look all this stuff up. But they have. I remember when I was in the military, I was in the Air Force weather, and I went down to Miami for something. They sent me down there, and there was these rooms, and these men were in the room by themselves and had doctor's degrees in weather, and they were climatologists. And one in one room was just studying hurricanes, the next one was just studying tornadoes. And I thought, these guys are way up here out of my league. They're sharp, but that's what they do. They're very they have some very intelligent people working at the Weather Service, and I've had the privilege of watch some people. There's a girl around here across the White House that went into the Weather Service, and I followed her all the time, and they love it. And you're liable to be anywhere in the United States. They'll send you anywhere. And I remember when I was in the Air Force, none of us wanted to go to Minot, North Dakota, because it was cold. But some went to Minot, and there's a guy here that was in the Air Force. I think he wasn't in the weather, but he went to Minot. And when you say Minot, North Dakota, and everybody nods their head, yeah, it's cold. So some go to Alaska and some go to Miami.
Right.
And so they just, and two, if you go to college and get a degree in meteorology, you're liable to be not working for the Weather Service, or the government service, but you'll work for a company. All companies hire them. They have weather people that are constantly monitoring and giving their predictions. And there's a lot of in television, as you know, but there's a lot of jobs in weather forecasting.
And that's one thing I talk to my students about. If you have a desire to go into something that's broadcast driven, being the talking head for news is so competitive. But if you can get some kind of, if you get the weather training, something.
There are people in the background doing a lot of the stuff you don't ever see.
Yeah. And there's all kinds of things that you can do in that regard. I've got one young man that, I don't know that he ever thought about sitting in front of a camera, and he's just a natural, Jackson Dawson. And he sits down and he's interested in the military.
Yeah.
And I told him, I said, you do know that they have broadcasters in the military.
Right.
And I said, and I hadn't thought about telling him to maybe even look at
free
the weather.
education too.
Well, yeah. And I really am I'm going to be excited to see where he goes. Because, he's just sitting down in front of the microphone, just boom. He didn't have any hesitation.
I was up at Bowling Green here a year or two ago, class, and those people that are into their weather, they've got a degree in weather up there. And I look at some of them and say, "Oh, I can't see you on Channel 5." But there's so many different varieties of jobs concerning weather that they're smart, but they're not,
right.
they're not very personable.
And you've got to think about, having, we talk a lot about, the tornadoes and things that have come through that have been so devastating.
Yeah.
Some of my family was saved in Mayfield because they knew what was coming and they got into the basement. Yeah. My cousin that lost her home, that was just gone. If they had not gone into the basement, I don't know if it would have killed them all.
I remember you telling me about that.
Yeah. And they came up out of the basement and the house is just gone. You know?
There's a lot of people still alive today due to Weather Service giving them warnings as early as I have. And sometimes it happens so fast, there's no warning.
Yeah.
And one time I saw a funnel cloud forming right north of Springfield. I called them and said, "We don't show it. Our radar jumps over it." Mm-hmm. And I said, "Well, it's there." And sure enough, they saw later what was going on. But, they can't tell when something's low going on here. They can't tell in Nashville because their radar goes at an angle up in the air and it skips this lower part. Yeah. They can only see upper. And a lot of times when they report wind speeds, it's up there. It's not down here on the ground. So you go, well, it's not going to be 50-mile-an-hour wind. No, but it isn't. It's going to be up there. So radar now is a new GOES satellite system and new radar that they can see birds flying around in dust.
That's crazy. Well, Well, the weather radar that you pointed me to, which one is that? Because I have that on my phone now.
Well,
and it's as accurate as anything I've ever seen. And yes,
it is.
Now we will address again the fact that we said no rain on parade night, and
I told you
it
that.
was not. It was drizzly
Misty.
and it was misty, but that doesn't count as rain because there was none as far as any accumulation, and that's what you count for rain. So that doesn't mean it's not going to be misty, but anyway.
What I use
What is the name of that app?
called Radar Scope.
Radar Scope, and I have that one now. Love it.
Costs you $10 a year. What a deal.
Yeah.
And it's live radar. And you can pick any town in the United States or that has radar, or you can go to Europe or South America. It's got that on there too.
Oh, fun.
But it gives all the weather warnings from everywhere. Like my wife's son lives in Macon, Georgia, so I monitor Macon, Georgia, and it comes out of Warner Robins, Georgia, which is south of Macon. And wherever there's a weather service, they're going to have radar, and you can. It comes right up on your phone. And there's others available too, and it's pretty good. There's more and more coming out. But some of the stuff, apps that you find, the weather service people laugh at them because they're just not accurate. And I don't want to mention any, but the weather radar, everybody at the weather service uses weather radar on their personal phone.
The scope, the one you're
Weather
talking
scope,
about.
yeah, radar scope.
Radar scope.
Radar
is what it's
scope.
talking about, and it is very good. I've had 2 or 3 times we've been out, like at the Bluegrass Festival or someplace like that, and people wondering about it, and I'll just pull that up and go, here you go.
You got to learn how to use it. Now, no one knows anything about it, can look at it and see what's going on. But if you really want to know more about it, they have, you can get on the internet and get their manual to the thing. And it's a lot of stuff in there. And then they have a second tier of radar scope, which costs you $100 a year. And that would be more for weather people. But it's got, you wouldn't know if you're not trained in it, you wouldn't know what to do with it. It's very technical.
Yeah.
But the basic stuff, and it's been around for a few years. I've had it 4 or 5 years, I guess, on my phone.
And we just got it. I think last time we talked about this kind of stuff, my husband and I both picked it up. And, just because that, having witnessed some really devastating weather, you want to stay aware of it and make sure, because I think about the straight line winds we had.
I know. Yeah, we've had a lot of that.
Last year, I remember, Corbin, I know we've not been talking about Corbin Creek right now because they've taken a little breath from advertising. They'll pick back up in the spring because they don't have as much going on right now. But I still get my CBD stuff out there. But they had some straight line winds that just devastated some of those greenhouses. And
you can imagine what it'd do to a greenhouse.
Well, yeah. And we had our barn roof was taken off. It was crazy, and it went on for so long.
We had a big storm.
That was so bizarre.
I know it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was registering 55 or something, 53 miles per hour at the airport, and so I ran outside with my little wind.
Is that what that is? Okay, this is, what do you call it?
It's a digital anemometer. Anemometer is a wind gauge.
So it's a wind gauge.
Yeah, you blow in.
Well, I kind of figured it had a fan on it, so this is to gauge the speed of the wind.
And
okay,
I've always wanted one, so I bought one several years ago.
Okay.
It's sort of expensive.
That's kind of cool.
Anyway,
I won't drop it.
I went outside on my driveway, and I was holding that thing, and the wind was about to blow me over. I thought, and that thing was very accurate. It's very accurate.
Okay.
So,
that's crazy.
I don't know, not everybody wants something like that, but
I would.
I go along the car and I hold it out the window and see.
Oh, that's funny.
How fast the wind.
How fast are we going? That's really funny.
So,
that cracks me up. Bill.
Anyway, I don't know anybody else around who's got one of these but me. I was at a seminar in Nashville I think we were at a college over there. Weather Service puts one on every year over there, and they have TV personalities that come and talk, the Weather Service people, all kinds of things. They have booths where people set up and demonstrate things. So they had one of these sitting out there, and I think it was the guy on Channel 5, the man, Rothenberger or whatever his name, and he was showing, he said, somebody stole it. And he said, who has got my weather gauge, a wind gauge, anemometer? Nobody confessed, but they kept an eye on it after that. But
yeah, well, you're kidding me.
Surprised that in that bunch somebody would do that.
That's a shame.
It is. Nowadays you just have to watch out for everything. It's just crazy.
Well, and I'll tell you, let's pause and take a break. We're talking with Bill Jones, and they're doing a special. So where is this thing Thursday night? Where is it?
The Senior Citizen Center
Yeah, I don't know if we've even mentioned
on Locust.
That. On Locust.
It's,
and what time?
The street past the courthouse.
Right.
And it's at 7 o'clock.
7 o'clock.
It'll go to about 8 o'clock.
So if you want to know, and this is the time of the year really to kind of, the big tornado that hit back home was right at Christmas. It was actually, we're coming up on the week. I forget the day because it was right during our birthday.
Yeah,
my husband.
it was unusual time.
Yeah, it was early December because my sons and we were out celebrating my birthday, and it started hitting. And my mother called me and said, "Pray for Mayfield," and that's when I knew something had happened. And so it was. I don't know. I don't think it was on the 8th though. I'm wanting to say it was like on the 9th, maybe. I don't know, but it was right in that same day. But it was in that vicinity. So we're coming up on the 2nd year anniversary, I suppose, of the one that came through and just went for miles and miles and miles, devastated so many little towns, including Mayfield and Bowling Green. And it was crazy. But it's just when that cold and warm air kind of get to messing around. And then we had that polar vortex thing last year that killed all my beautiful ivy, killed it. Absolutely killed it. And so anyway, but we're going to continue talking with Bill. And if you want to know more about this stuff, I find it absolutely fascinating. I really do. And I want to be aware.
Doesn't cost you anything.
No. And you can go to the Senior Citizen Center on Thursday night, and you can hear all about this. And I'm sure Bill will have all of his toys he can show you. All of his gadgets.
No, I won't have
stuff.
it there.
Yeah, well, you should. I mean, I want you to explain what this tennis racket thing is in just a minute. But let me go ahead and let's talk about Barry and Rebecca Richards with the Exit Realty Garden Gate team. My friends, love them so much. They're so fun. And they are just, a plethora of information if you have questions in regards to the real estate community. Barry is a broker. I had said she was a broker, but she's like, no. She is a realtor in White House. He is the broker here in Springfield. So anything that you want to know, they got it covered. You figure she's been at this 17 plus years, I think she told me. She's one of the first in the area to be a seniors real estate specialist. She's always studying. That's why we tell you that. And it's a unique thing to deal with seniors that are wanting to downsize. When do you want to do that? And how do you want to do that? What are the things that you want to, take care of? We talked a lot about, they were in last week, and we talked a lot about the considerations if you're going to buy property in Kentucky and work in Tennessee. Is it worth the difference because you're going to have an income tax, but you're going to save on your grocery tax and all those little things that you need to think about. She's expert at helping you with all that. Barry's the marketer. He's going to make sure people see your property and they don't just flip past it. It's going to pop because he's going to have great videography, great photography, doing walkthrough tours, doing drone footage. He came out of a marketing background, and so he is an expert at that. He's the broker again here in Springfield. Has a Springfield office right on the downtown square. You can reach out to them, sellwithbecky.com or buyBUYRobertsCounty.com, or you can just Google them. Barry Richards, Exit Realty Garden Gate Team. Rebecca Richards, Exit Realty Garden Gate Team. When you touch base with them, just, make sure and you tell them that you turned Cincha and that we appreciate them being one of our longtime sponsors here at One Street Over. And as we continue to get back into the show here, let's continue talking with Bill Jones. I saw that Mr. Perry's music, Perry Myers, was on for a minute a while ago, and I just have to say kudos again to you for getting out in the drizzle. The other band that I knew was going to do that couldn't do it, but you had the kiddos out there, and they sounded wonderful, and we'll talk more about Mr. Perry's music tomorrow, but they're one of our new Appreciate you, Perry. And love seeing the kiddos out there, too. I don't think anybody knew me. I was at the parade. I had on my Stormy Comer. Have you know what a Stormy Comer is?
No, I can imagine it's something different.
That I got up north. They're famous up in Wisconsin, and it's like I look like a goof.
You have little tassels.
No, it has the ear things over it.
Yeah,
I look like I was in the northern forest. And my husband finally let me, he goes, "You look so goofy." So I was like, "Well, thanks. You're the one who told me, I need a hat to stay warm." Well, it was just so drizzly. I was like, I'm putting on my Stormy. But everybody's like, "LaVern?" I looked like a goof, I know, but I was warm. So there you go. All right. So what is that thing?
Okay, we're mixing two things here. We're talking about weather and talking about amateur radio. So we can talk about amateur radio for a while. Oh, by the way, let me give you a number of the Weather Service, and anybody can call them
Okay.
if you want to know about the parade or something. It is 615 754 8500.
One more time.
Of course, 615 is the area code. 754 8500.
Okay.
Now, you can call up, and you're going to get a live person, a forecaster,
Really?
that's sitting there. And if you've ever seen if you go up on the internet and look at the picture of the inside of the Weather Service, they've got these huge monitors all over the place.
Huh.
And they're just sitting there watching. And let me tell you a funny story, too. It happened one time a few years ago. There was a weather personality that was on one of the channels that was well known. It was a woman. And they were sitting there one day, and everything looked pretty normal. And of course, they have times they're just bored, nothing going on.
Mm-hmm.
And she calls them up and says, "Hey, you all hadn't said anything about this rotation over here in some county." Said, "What are you talking about?" Says, "It's right on the radar. There's a tornado forming there." They jump up and they start scurrying around, and they're looking and looking, and you have different forms. You can look on the maps. We don't see it. She said, "Yeah, it's right over here." And they said, "Well, what are you using?" And she said something, some not weather radar, but turns out to be she was using one, and it just stopped and froze right there, and it was not even happening. But they were all running around like little mice, What's going on? We don't see it. We don't see it.
Is it the little turny thing that comes up?
Yeah,
on the
yeah,
internet?
yeah.
Oh no!
She says, "Oh, my bad."
Oh my goodness! So she saw the little spinny thingy. Oh,
Well, I don't know what she saw. She was probably is what it
yeah,
was.
that's
Or
hysterical.
a hook or something, So,
That's funny.
I'm sure they talked about her.
Oh, I'm sure they did.
But anyway, get off of weather here. Anyway, what I want to say quickly is that 7:00 meeting Thursday night.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's invited. Bring your mother, bring your children. If they're interested in weather. And this is how a lot of people get interested in when they're teenagers in going into the Weather Service, something like that. So this will be, everybody will enjoy it. It'll be some things probably beyond my understanding and beyond everybody else's, but you'll pick up something. Mm-hmm. And especially with the new radar, the new satellites that are out, and how they get these upper air soundings, very interesting, I think. Mm-hmm. But let me go back to this Weather 101 thing. They do this a couple of times a year, spring and winter, and you sign up on the internet and you say, "Okay, I want to go at the 7:00 meeting," and you sign up. If you miss it, it's no big deal. But when it comes on live, your name will be there, that you're supposed to be there. And they'll see that they've got, 25 people listening, and you can ask questions. You can usually have your microphone turned off, but you can ask a question, and they don't have to see you. But if you want to, you can put video up there like Zoom. But it's very neat, and they go from, I save them all. I've got them on my computer. It's a lot of slides. And you can ask questions, go through this thing, and I go through them over and over again because I learn something different every time. But anyway, you can do that. Weather 101, it's local forecasters, plus it might be somebody from Florida or South Carolina or whatever giving the program, which is very neat. But anyway, I want to get that over with and clear. And you can call the Weather Service. It's a government service. It's paid by the government, and they're there no matter who's president or what, they're not political, so it's neat. And you can go over there sometimes if you call them up and ask them when you can tour the facility, you can do that. And if you go over there when they're putting a balloon up, usually early in the morning at 6 or about 4 or 5 in the afternoon, they'll send up a balloon. If you want to go over there when they do that, you can watch them do that.
Well, and just to kind of loop back to what's going on Thursday night. If you know some homeschool kids, I've got a few.
Right,
homeschool
that's really
friends,
good for that.
And I'm gonna Tiffany Thompson, from United Way. She homeschools her kiddos, and I bet they'd love it.
And it's free.
Yeah,
You're getting a lot of good information for
and
free.
See, they have Chet up at so the McClellans. I'm going to call Shelley McClellan. She's involved with Chet, and we have. That's a homeschool program that is in our church,
Yeah.
Madison Church of Christ, is ran there. So I'm going to reach out to them, and of course I'm going to talk about it in my class too, because I don't know, especially in broadcasting,
Yeah.
if any of these students that are kind of picking up with this and interested, because I encourage them. I said, find something different in broadcasting. Don't just try to be the news anchor.
Yeah.
They don't make any money.
Yeah.
You got to have some specialty training, and it's a good
Well,
hobby.
most people, the only idea they
Yeah.
have about weather is what they see on television.
Yeah.
It's the TV people, and it's not that way.
It's fascinating. So that's Thursday night. And
7 o'clock.
It's 7 o'clock up at the Senior Center, and Bill will be
Locust
there.
Street.
And who is your speaker again? Remind him again.
Scott Unger, he's a lead forecaster at the Weather Service in Nashville.
Okay. Well, you hear him. I've heard his name around.
Well,
I mean, he pops up on.
there's,
Does he
8 or
come?
10,
Is he?
12 people over there.
Does he come up on the news sometimes? Is he ever on camera?
I've never seen him on there.
It seems like I've heard reference to,
he-
according to Scott Unger from
Scott
that
was a
kind of thing.
dropout out of college.
How funny.
He went to the Air Force
Okay.
and went into the Weather Service in the Air Force, and that's how he got his training. And he's a
Okay.
very smart, sharp guy.
Mm-hmm.
Very smart.
Very good. Well, that'll be interesting on Thursday night, especially at this time of the year as we're coming up on the anniversary of the tornado from a couple of years ago, and just kind of remind you what to do and what to be looking for, and
Another
where to
thing
turn when the weather's
About the Weather
bad.
Service, back in the 60s when I was involved, there were no women. Now it's a lot of women involved. It's very open to that.
Mm-hmm.
So there's some women over there that are very sharp, very sharp.
Yeah,
Anyway.
that's interesting. We started the show tonight. I don't know. We started when Bill and I first sat down and started talking. We were talking about liking the old shows from PBS, the old period stuff from like the, well, like I'm watching something right now from 1930, and that's funny that you mentioned that, the differences in the roles of women and those kinds of things. And this is something, broadcasters were men. Now that's the one thing that, as I have talked about the history of broadcasting with my students, there were women always on the entertainment side, kind of the vaudeville kind of actors that would come up and then become, like, Lucy was a radio commercial person, before she was on television. And so a lot of them did, there were
You're talking about
women-
Lucille Ball?
Yeah.
Her hair is not really natural
Oh, no,
red.
Not at all. Not at all. But she, she started in radio. A lot of these women did that came up. And so from an entertainment perspective, but you did not see women news people. Barbara Walters really was the
she was a-
groundbreaker, don't you think? I think
Oh,
she
yeah,
was
she
probably.
was-
And so the role of women is so interesting to see how much it's changed, especially in the last 50 years.
It's
But,
different. Everything's
Yeah,
different.
very much so. Talking with Bill Jones, and we're talking about all things weather related. They've got a special event on Thursday night at the Senior Center. I want to invite you out at 7 o'clock, and all things weather, and it'll be interesting. I
Now,
think it'll
who's
be
sponsoring
fascinating.
this now?
Yes, who is sponsoring it?
Robertson County Amateur Radio Club.
Okay,
Yeah.
so talk to me about them.
You
has to
call
do
a
with-
ham.
Yeah.
You in order to be a ham, you have to have a license.
Mm-hmm.
We help you with that. I also give the test.
I've got to get my license. I've got a student whose father, Spence, their last name's Spence. Do you know who they are?
No.
Okay, his dad has wanted to come by and talk to the class, and we just haven't had an opportunity to do it. But
They live here?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, our kids go to Greenbrier. but yeah, he's a hammer.
So many.
radio. Yeah.
There's so many people now that are licensed. There's probably several hundred
Mm.
people in Robertson County licensed, and they don't ever use it.
Okay.
And there's people like me that's been active all my life doing
Right.
stuff. I've done everything in this that you can do in ham radio. But one thing, here's a book here I want to show you. I don't know if you can.
I'll hold it up here.
It's about transmitter hunting. And what we do, and we hadn't done it in a while, but we did it out at the park last year, I think, or year before. We hide a transmitter that's putting out a signal.
Yes, you told me.
And
about
then we try to find it.
Mm-hmm.
And we use directional equipment, which this is what this is, a tennis racket. And I've got wire all around the edge of it. It's TV antenna twin lead wire, actually, is what it is. And I've got a little matching device I've built down here. And you use that to hone in to see what direction the signal is coming from. Now, I made another one out of a tape measure. It's a beam, 3-element beam out of a tape measure. And you can do that if you want to.
What does this plug into?
Plugs into a little radio like this.
Oh, okay.
Use a little walkie-talkie.
Okay. Well, yeah, tell the story about. Somebody stole a radio.
Oh, yeah.
Tell that story.
Back several years ago.
So funny because you used this, didn't you, to get it?
No, I had something else I used.
Okay.
I didn't have that built at that time.
Okay, that's a funny story.
Back several years ago, somebody left a walkie-talkie, police walkie-talkie, in City Hall down in the basement. And people were coming and going down through there, down at lower door. And a little boy stole a radio. So he was giving them down the road, and they had to use the radio, the repeater system they were using. They had to use it, and there he was right in the middle of it, just giving them heck, And so one of the policemen knew what I did, and he called me, he told me what was happening. He says, "Is there any way you can help us find this radio?"
He was talking to him.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, he was talking to him.
Teasing him, saying, "I got your radio."
Yeah, and he was cussing and carrying on,
Yeah,
he was giving them down the road.
Oh,
so
geez.
this was for an early afternoon. So by the time I said, "Okay, let me go home and get my stuff," and I go home and get my things, and we use VHF mostly, sometimes UHF. And I had some UHF stuff, which the police radios were on. Mm-hmm. So I said, "Come and pick me up." So they come in a police car, and here we go. And I said, "You just drive where I point you to. And I'm going to hang this thing out the window. And we'll trace this thing down. Just get the guy talking. Mm-hmm. The longer he talks, the better chance we got of catching him sooner." So they did. They fooled with him, and he was talking and I was doing. And we finally, it didn't take long, maybe an hour or two. That seemed like a long time, but sometimes it takes longer. And we found it was out in the projects of where it ended up. And so I've narrowed it down to one project house. Mm-hmm. And I said, "Well, he's in that house." And so they said, "Well, let's call another unit in." They did, and said, "We're going to go in the house." And I go around the back of the house and look in the window, and there he's sitting on his bed talking on it, just giving them down the road. Oh. And so they go in and they capture him, Yeah. I don't know they did anything to him. It was a kid, maybe 13, 14 years
goodness.
Old. But it was funny and a lot of fun doing. Yeah. And so they were amazed that I could find it that quick. And I was amazed too.
Yeah, you're like,
we used to practice this in Nashville with a club over there, and they would hide somebody in Nashville. Now, Nashville's a big area, and they usually didn't go outside of Nashville, but they would hide and produce a signal. And I have a little box I made. It's about the size of a letter, the whole letter's in, and I made a transmitter, and it's a metal box, and I can put it down in there, and that dampens the signal, so you have to be close to it to find it. And I'll hide the box and turn the transmitter on. It runs on battery, and every minute it'll transmit some code. Mm-hmm. So it's not on all the time. So you got to be real fast, Mm-hmm. So when it's transmitting, you're looking and trying to find what direction, and then you start driving toward that direction, and you wait till it comes on again in another minute, and then you start looking again, and you narrow it down. Now that can be done fairly quickly, but what happens is, what I did one time to them, I took a beam antenna and I point the beam toward a building, and its signal will bounce off the building. So they thought it was over there, but they'd go there and it wouldn't be there. Then they'd come to where it was, but that was making it a little too difficult. But you can do things like that and hide, or our club was doing it one time, and we call it a fox hunt. And so the fox is someone who has a transmitter. And I was the fox one time, and I went to Moreland Shopping Center and got underneath a car.
Oh, geez.
In the parking lot. And they were all around me, looking, and finally one guy said, "I see a pair of feet sticking out on that car."
Funny.
So we got so good at it, we just stopped doing it because everybody was catching them real quickly. But the FCC uses listening stations. Powder Springs, Georgia is one of them, and they triangulate signals when there's a rogue signal out there, a pirate station or something like that. And they and I I have a unit that will spot it exactly real quick. You got to have about 6 or 8 little antennas on top of your car to do it, but it's all done by computer with your laptop. And I don't use that because that wouldn't be fair. I mean, you just got it just like that. It's just so quick. It tells you right direction and how far and the whole thing. And I don't use it, and I just do it like everybody else does.
Let me ask you this, okay? Because you're talking about trying to, find that signal. What prevents you from hearing all the other signals? And because if you're trying to find a transmitter, all of the police radios are transmitting. So how do you?
Well, nobody
pinpoint yours.
The thing is, okay, just like our radio we use and the sheriff's and police radio, they use a repeater. It goes in on one frequency, comes out on another.
Okay.
So what we're doing, we're listening for the transmitted frequency, not what's coming out. And because that's where it's going to be coming from is this little walkie-talkie will transmit to cross planes, which I have a repeater up there.
Okay.
And then it comes out, it's, like 800 feet in the air, and the antenna is.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to cover a lot more area. These little things will cover just a few miles.
Okay.
So you're going to listen to the input. We call it an input signal. That's what they're transmitting on because it's 600 kilohertz difference from that and the receive signal.
Yeah.
So if you listen to the receive, it's going to go to cross planes to the repeater there. And that doesn't do you any good. You have to listen. And then the sheriff and police, they have repeaters. They have trunking systems now, which is very difficult to listen to. You can't hardly hear it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But that's how you do it. It's not anybody transmitting on that frequency. So that's why you're not going to hear anything else.
Okay. You mentioned hertz. And that is just so funny because that's one thing that I talk to the kiddos about is it John Hertz? Is that who?
I don't remember.
I think I'm trying to because we talk about Marconi being the father of broadcasting, but really Hertz was the guy who figured out that you could take an antenna and get a signal. He was the one who really figured out the technology, and then Marconi came up on the backside and said, okay, I'm going to take this and do this. And so, but Hertz, as soon as you mentioned Hertz, that's something that my kiddos, if any of my kiddos are listening, you heard what we said. Yeah. That's how we measure the frequencies now. It's still in honor of him.
I'm so old. We didn't used to use Hertz.
I think it's John Hertz is the man's name. I'll have to pull back up and take a look. Yeah. But he was really the person who started.
We used to say
broadcast
so many megacycles. Now it's megahertz. Really?
Interesting.
But that's what I came up on is cycles instead of hertz.
Really? Okay. Well, I'll have to look that. I'm gonna have to add that into my broadcast history then, because I didn't realize that changed during that time period.
Well, okay. I don't know. Just the way we used it, I suppose. But
and my kids love it when we do broadcast history.
There is a book. I have a book out on about radio stations in Nashville, the history of them. You got it? Okay.
Yeah, you gave it to me. I've got it in my classroom.
Okay. I don't have it anymore.
Well, you loaned it to me. I can bring it back. We've gone.
No, that's okay. That's okay.
But if you're wondering where it is, it's in my classroom.
I give stuff away and I never know where it is.
Well, and like I said, it was a loan, but we've been, kind of working on it. Yeah. So, anyway, but
there's so many different facets of ham radio. Weather is one end. Mm-hmm. And people who get a license that are not very I don't know, very good in amateur and electronics ham radio. They can do this with a walkie-talkie. They're just a basic license because there's 3 different levels of a license. Mm-hmm. And they can do that using our repeater and telling people, and they can be a trained spotter by the Weather Service. And you can go out there and report stuff. And what is happening now, people are trained spotters, and they come in and start reporting wind speeds that are just off the wall. So the Weather Service says, we're not taking any more wind speeds report unless you're using something like this or some weather station that you have. Mm-hmm. You can't just guess at it. Because people say, it's 50 miles an hour here. Well, it's not. It's maybe 20.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I run 2 weather stations just in case one is not accurate, mm-hmm. and one of them totally different than the other. So one on the different side of the house and in the clear. I got it on top of a flagpole, actually. But, people, and I keep up with it all the time. There's an organization called Kokoros. And if you will go on the internet and look it up. That's a abbreviation. Let me see what it is. I forget what it stands for, but
Why don't you do that? Let me go ahead and do
Okay,
the break.
go
Let's
ahead.
talk about Cumberland Connect. And I mean, that's something Bill and I both could sit here and talk about for a while because we both are members of the Gig Club. If you want to have high-speed internet, guys, and you are a Cumberland Electric customer, well, good news, because you will have access. They're getting very close to getting everybody access. The big gauge, Senator Roberts is supposed to call me and let me know as soon as they get him connected, because I think he's going to be the last one. Because he was so close into town. But they're getting very close to getting everybody connected. I've had I'm coming up on a year that I've had Cumberland Connect. It has been such a game changer. We stream stuff now. I mean, if we want to watch something, we just stream it. We don't have any kind of television service anymore. We're talking about putting an antenna up, just to grab what's free. But it's really changed the way that we consume technology. And I like it because it really puts us in charge. We can decide what we want. And it's also wonderful when it comes to doing any kind of work from home. With my husband and I both teaching, we're both going through education programs right now to educate us as career teachers. They're called EPPs, Educated Preparedness Programs. And so, trying to do those classes and trying to do photography and videography and all the things that I do, I have to have high-speed internet. And it has been so nice to be able to do my work from home now and to have that connectivity. It has replaced our phone lines. So if you're somebody that is needing high-speed connectivity and maybe you financially are like thinking, wow, $80 is a lot for a gig, but that they've got an affordable connectivity program that will provide qualifying households with up to $30 per month if you qualify to help pay for broadband services. And they have packages starting at just $30 per month, guys. And I mean, great internet for $30. It is a great deal, great service. Cumberland Connect, cannot say enough about them. Go to cumberlandconnect.org, cumberlandconnect.org, or you can just give them a call. The number is 1-800-987-2362, 1-800-987-2362. And when you talk with them, thank them for sponsoring One Street Over and let them know that. Okay, and what does that stand for?
okay, it stands for Community Collaborative Rain, Hail, and Snow Network. And I've been involved with it for over 15 years when it first started. Well, and anybody can do this. Doesn't cost anything. Well, it does, actually. If you want to buy a rain gauge, you'll have to have an official rain gauge, which is the same one they use at the Weather Service. And it's a tube about that big around and about that tall. And you place it at a certain spot that's clear of your house and all that. And every morning you send in a report. You measure. I did this morning. Go out there and read the rain gauge, and I get on the internet and send a report in. And it asks for your name and password, and then you put it in. And then they keep a record of it. And this is all based in Colorado State University, I think, or something. And they use this water information all over the country to see exactly what's going on, because just the other day we had a rain, and the TV stations will say, well, we won't get but maybe 1/10 or 2/10 of an inch. I got 2.5 inches,
wow.
And then another guy who's doing the same thing I do over near the other side of the county, near Clarksville, he called me. He says, are you sure that's right? I only got a 1/2 inch. I said, yeah, that happens. It'll sometimes the cloud parks over my house.
Yeah, ask farmers sometimes whenever they got a field that's desperately needing water and the one up the street gets it and they don't.
I had a guy, a lawyer, call me one time, and he said, I called the Weather Service. I've got a case where a guy is wanting to sue the state because this man said that they were building a road and this rain came and washed all this mud down in his yard, and he wants them to pay for fixing it and blah, blah, blah. So the state says, no, we're not going to do it. We didn't have that much rain. And he said, now I called the Weather Service, and they said, call you, and said, you're a member of this organization that keeps record of rain. I said, when was it? He said, it was a year and a half ago. I said, I got a record of it. And he was not far from me. And I said, I'll give you another person that also does this on the other side. And between the two of us, we can be pretty good at giving you when it rained that day, how much it rained. So the lawyer called me and said, I want to do a deposition. I said, okay, I didn't really want to get into this, but, okay, I've done it. I've already volunteered for this. Yeah. So anyway, we never did do it. He called me back. He said, well, when the state saw what you had and the other fellow had. It was so accurate with the Weather Service. They decided just to pay up.
Yeah. They made a mess and needed to clean it up.
Yeah.
There you go.
So I don't know. I do stuff like this. This is, it's, and Kokoros, if you go on their website, they have a lot of training on there, and they teach you how to collect rain, how to collect snow, how to collect hail, all that, and how to report it. And they have all kinds of weather facts, information. You don't have to have a license or anything. Just get on there. And there's lots of people around Robeson County, and every morning I can look on their site and see little dots of where they're reporting the weather, the rain from. Huh. And I have a code, it's RB3, Robeson County. RB is Robeson County. And I'm number 3. And they'll go on up to 100, I guess. But there's people all over the place doing the same thing, all from one end of the state to the United States to the other. So that's another facet you can do. And, of course, the Weather Service uses that. They're going to look at it every morning, because I'm going to turn mine in at 7 o'clock every morning. Uh-huh. So the Weather Service is going to look and say, okay, we got that. We thought it was going to be 1/10 of an inch, and it was 2 inches. Uh-huh. And they adjust everything, according to that. And then they look at on this weather radar thing, you can go look past where it was yesterday, where a storm was. But I think it may have to have the higher, more expensive end to do that. But anyway, it has that capability.
And again, guys, we're just the same as out of time, but I just want to remind you, this to me is fascinating. And if you've got a kiddo that you think this would interest them, what a great way to teach them something scientific and useful. And they could even, is there an age limit? Like, could a young person that determined to be reliable be a weather spotter?
Young people, how smart they are.
Yeah, are you kidding? Absolutely. Think about how young Washington was when he was out surveying.
It doesn't cost anything either. It's all on the internet.
Well, unless you go out and buy one of those gadgets.
Oh, well, that's me. I'm a gadget person.
Of course. But if you've got some kiddos, if you've just got an interest yourself, and understanding, why did we have okay, we've got just a couple of minutes. What was up with the polar vortex? Why did we get the polar vortex last year? What was that all about? Can you explain it in like 2 minutes?
I can't.
We don't.
I can't.
You
have to go back and look.
It a little bit? I mean, it was bizarre.
We have some very bizarre weather happening. Yeah. It's different. That's not normal. We've got some odd things, and that's why they need more weather spotters and things like that, because we see things here that I can't see there. It's to me, I constantly hear stuff like this. Names, lake effect's not something new, but weather vortex is. To me, I never heard of it back in the '60s. I never heard of it when I was in the Weather Service, but maybe I just don't remember now. I don't know.
Well, it's fascinating.
So many names they have out describing things.
We're out of time, and you mentioned lake effect, though. Traveling up around the Great Lakes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Lake effect snow. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Go up into Ensenada, and oh my gosh, lake effect snow will get you. It's good stuff, but it's fun. It's fun. We're out of time, Bill. Thank you for being here. Thank you so much, and I'm sure we'll be having you back before Christmas for sure. Well, I'm sure there'll be some openings or something, but we may need to just talk about, historical things around Christmas.
I got a lot of fingers in a lot of pies.
I know you do, but text me and remind me to plug the event on Thursday night too. But if you've got any homeschoolers, any kiddos, I'm going to talk to my students about it Thursday night, 7:00 at the Senior Center. You can come out and learn all about weather. And tomorrow, if you've got somebody that's dealing with dementia, Alzheimer's, anything like that, we've got Mary Ann from Veranda Ministries is coming on. And if you're a caretaker of somebody dealing with that, that's what we're going to be talking about tomorrow at 7. And I think Cold Stream Camp's coming on at 7:30. But we've got a great show planned up for you tomorrow, so I hope you'll be a part of it. Thank you for joining us. This is 1100 WSGI. God bless. Have a fabulous day.
Three-rugged cross